Well, hello there, Space Monkeys. Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden. We're going to continue with the book club, Dreamland by Sam Quinones today. It's kind of a longer chapter. I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing. If we stop halfway through, it'll be about a 15-minute episode. If we go the whole way, it'll be 30-plus minutes, probably. Page 161, the chapter's called The Man in the Heartland. Columbus, Ohio. The city of Columbus, Ohio, in many ways is a fine replica of the United States. Its income and age distribution, its racial demographics, and diversity of opinion make Columbus a microcosm of America, and one that marketers especially prize. There's a large white population and moderate numbers of blacks. Unlike other parts of Ohio, Columbus has sizable immigrant groups from Mexico, Somalia, Nepal, and other parts of Asia, who flocked to the town to fill the low-end service jobs. A large college student population at Ohio State and other schools has kept it vibrant and edgy. No place apparently represents the country more faithfully, and for that reason Columbus, Ohio has been known as the, quote, test market capital of the United States for several years now. These days, it's no longer Peoria but Columbus that marketers use as the barometer of America, which, by the way, I live in Peoria. I'm in Peoria right now, central Illinois. It's on a river. And if Peoria is, in fact, it was the barometer of America, let me tell you what's going on in Peoria right now. The infrastructure is completely crumbling. Most of the nice buildings that are on the river, which is highly polluted, are either being torn down or, worse, let to just rot and fall apart. There's probably rent signs in about 40% of all the windows of all of the buildings in downtown Peoria. And something else I've noticed that a lot of the fast food joints around here are now hiring 15-year-olds, and they advertise it up on their signs. So if that's not representative of America, I don't know what is. So I can guarantee you that if what was happening in Peoria is likely to be coming to a city near you, trust me when I tell you it's crumbling infrastructure, a lot of poverty, a lot of homeless people that don't have a place to live and sleep out in the streets all the time, and underage slave labor. So coming soon to a city near you, because it's in Peoria right now. Take it from me. White Castle and Wendy's and more than a dozen other fast food chains headquarter in Columbus. Probably pay all those employees that are 15 years old $7 an hour to work there too. Many companies have used the town to gauge interest in new product offerings, placing them in stores in Columbus first before rolling out those products nationally. McDonald's tested its McRib in Columbus, and Wendy's and Panera have tested prototype stores as well. Taco Bell's BLT tacos were tested in the Columbus market. R.J. Reynolds tried tobacco in the form of a mint that did away with secondhand smoke. Giant Eagle's massive Market District supermarket in Columbus tests a variety of concepts, among them the sale of wine by the glass. If you raked America together, in the center you'd find Columbus, and I think that's really what makes us a unique test bed, as opposed to being average, a spokesman for the Columbus Partnership told CBS News in a story in which the reporter concluded, "What they choose in Columbus today may very well determine what you will buy tomorrow." Yeah, and my cat is all over me right now. She's trying to climb up into my lap. By the end of 1998, the man was proving that true of black tar heroin as well. For the bounties of Columbus, he discovered, were indeed ample. A metro area of close to 2 million, Columbus wasn't Youngstown or Cleveland. It had no organized mafias or armed gangs controlling the drug underworld. It was connected by freeways to regional markets as far east as Wheeling, West Virginia, and south to Lexington and eastern Kentucky. There was Cincinnati to the southwest, plus all around it were suburbs and farm towns with money. Columbus always was a highly educated community with a service, not industrial economy. That's much different than Peoria, very much industrial and farm town. A lot of farms around us. As parts of the state went into something like permanent recession, in Columbus the suburbs spread and the malls stayed busy. All this the man saw upon arriving in the summer of '98, which seems to be the first time Mexican black tar heroin made a large and sustained appearance east of the Mississippi River. Up to then, the Colombian powder was all the Columbus dealers could get, usually by driving up to NYC, then diluting it before sale. They were stepping on it 5 or 6 times, the man said. Addicts would buy a $100 bag twice a day just to get well. They'd buy a $40 bag of mine and stay well all day. Mexico's proximity and his connection to the Nayarit poppy supply and Jalisco cookers meant he got heroin quickly, cheaply, and unadulterated. Enormously potent dope could be sold at scarily low prices. This gave black tar a competitive advantage over heroin from Colombia, Mexico's main heroin competition, and of course, what little arrived from Asia. He immediately sent for two more kids from Jalisco, so now he had 3. He brought out a woman from California who rented 2 apartments in her name, one for the workers and one for him. He found a car lot with an amenable owner. Every 2 months, he would switch cars. He exchanged an old Honda Accord for a Prelude, and that for a Civic, and then for a Camry, white, beige, and gray. He ran 2 shifts for drivers, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. They devised codes for places to meet the addicts. 1 was a Burger King, 2 a Kmart parking lot. He tutored his new Jalisco boys. Never leave the house with anything in your pockets. Take only what you can swallow if you get pulled over, and never carry a gun. An illegal who is arrested gets deported. An illegal with a gun gets 10 years. Some of them still dressed as they had back home, with cowboy boots and belt buckles. Go to the stores downtown, he told 2 of them one day. Look at how they dress the mannequins at JCPenney's. Buy clothes like that so you can blend in with the people here. He insisted they send money home weekly. Most didn't need to be told and religiously sent money to Mom via Western Union. Those who didn't, he knew he would be hearing from their parents. For some kids, he sent the money to their parents' house himself. Sell to whites, that's where the money is, he told them. Steer clear of blacks. He didn't have to insist too strongly on this point either. His runners came with their own ideas forged by the negative view of black people common in Mexican culture that was, in turn, reinforced by the stories of returning immigrants who lived in Compton, Watts, and South Central LA, where powerful black gangs terrorized vulnerable Mexicans. So the Jalisco boys stayed away from black neighborhoods, and this was one reason why. As their system expanded, Nayarit black tar was primarily sold to and used by whites. Otherwise, he had a live and let live attitude. The U.S. market was large enough and tar heroin was addictive enough. It never occurred to him to sell wholesale. Retail, he made almost triple what he would have made selling heroin wholesale. He had a bunch of poor ranchero kids down in Nayarit eager to drive around with tiny balloons in their mouths, so his risk was minimal. And they were only deported when arrested because they usually possessed such small quantities of dope. There's a typo here. Possessed. I will edit any book you want. Just give me some money. I will read through books and catch typos like this, so this isn't embarrassing for everybody. Selling small quantities allowed him to get the most money out of the dope he got from Mexico. Plus, as he hired more of these men, his standing in Jalisco improved and he got respect every time he returned. Columbus had been at the bottom of Ohio's heroin distribution chain. At the time the man arrived, heroin in Columbus was at most 3% pure, old addicts told me, and even that was hard to get. For years before his arrival, the entire city of Columbus, Ohio, heroin was sold at precisely one street corner, Mount Vernon Avenue at North 20th Street. The city instead had always been a pill town. Pills were easier to trust than low-grade heroin. The advent of black tar heroin in this community suddenly put a much purer grade heroin on the streets of central Ohio, said Ronnie Pogue, co-founder of Columbus's lone methadone clinic, Comp Drug. The hunger for heroin, which had always been there, immediately saw an upward spike, because you also saw a spike in the overdose rate. Columbus had the only methadone clinic for hundreds of miles around. Long before the man arrived, the region's opiate addicts had been traveling into Columbus to score whatever they could find in the front of the clinic. As word spread of the high quality of black tar, these pilgrims became some of his first clients, users from Zanesville, Toledo, Chillicothe, from northern Kentucky and western West Virginia. Some of his best clients were from Ashland, Kentucky, who had bought for years in the front of Columbus's methadone clinic. They bought his tar and went back to Ashland and sold it for triple. Black tar became the talk of Columbus's drug underworld. It was the most powerful heroin anyone had tried. Plus, the Mexicans soon had a delivery driver in each area. With that, heroin found its way to suburban kids. They broke this city down into dominoes, 30 minutes or less, one veteran addict told me. When you're dope sick, that makes a big difference. Then every time you found them, somebody knew. It was a free balloon. Usually it was 7 balloons for $100, but if you brought them the right people and were spreading with them, you could get as many as 13 balloons for $100. With addicts transformed into a new sales force, the man was soon making so much money that he had to concentrate less on running the cell and more on getting cash back to Mexico. He formed a network of young women. A tailor in L.A. made them corsets with pockets that held $100,000 in cash. He sent the women on airplanes to El Paso, where they crossed his money into Ciudad Juarez, and from there back to Jalisco. For more than a year, he sent 2 girls a month back to Mexico with $100,000 in pure Columbus, Ohio profit tucked under their corsets. His product was coming in from a man named Oscar Hernandez Garcia, a member of the Tejeda clan who operated a heroin supply business out of his apartment in Panorama City in LA. Hernandez Garcia, known as Mosca, or Fly, had developed a business as a wholesaler, supplying black tar to Jalisco cells from Portland and Phoenix to Columbus and Hawaii. The man used Federal Express to bring the product from Mosca's apartment in California. He would go to California and buy a small electric oven from Target or Kmart, open the back of the oven, stuff it with black tar heroin, and then take it to FedEx for packaging. Police didn't often search a package that FedEx prepared. He sent the ovens to a pliant Columbus addict who lived in the basement of his senile parents' home and paid him in heroin. With Columbus humming along, he looked for new markets. One addict, a kid named Mikey, told him people in Wheeling, West Virginia would go crazy for black tar. Mikey introduced him around Wheeling. There, the man made a startling discovery. Mikey introduced him to a woman in her late 30s, a heroin addict. She showed him a bottle of pills, wanting to trade them for his tar. OxyContin, the pills were called, she said. He'd never heard of the name and turned her down, but it struck him that she drove a new Dodge Durango and owned a house. He'd never known a longtime heroin addict who had a house and a new SUV, so he listened to her. OxyContin, she told him, contained a pharmaceutical opiate, a prescription painkiller similar to heroin. He got to know the woman better. Turned out she traveled the area buying these pills cheap from seniors and then sold them to oxy addicts in the hills of Appalachia. She bought her daily heroin with that money. He couldn't have known it then, but arriving in 1998, he had happened onto the biggest metro area in a 5-state region where, 2 years into the Purdue Pharma promotional campaign, opiate addiction was exploding due to abuse of this new drug called OxyContin. By his own good fortune, not far away in Portsmouth, Ohio, where scandalous pain clinics were just starting to follow the lead of Dr. David Proctor into new business models of writing prescriptions for millions of these pills into long lines of addicts. Meanwhile, the pain revolution was in full swing in U.S. medicine. Specialists were urging well-meaning doctors everywhere to prescribe opiate painkillers for pain, convinced that when used this way, they were all but non-addictive. Central Ohio, in other words, was about to be a great place to be a heroin dealer. So we'll continue with the second half of this chapter later. We're about halfway through right now. We're on page 165, and we'll finish that up later today or tomorrow. Sorry, it's been a long time in between chapters and episodes, guys. I've been very busy, got a new baby and a whole bunch of stuff going on in my life right now. So keep fighting that good fight out there. I'll talk to you guys soon.